I was playing Xaku recently, and I kept thinking about how strange its sense of identity is. Xaku is not a warframe that feels whole. Even at a glance, it looks unstable, parts suspended where something solid should be. And that instability isn't cosmetic. It isn't just visual flair or design language. Xaku isn't a single frame that was damaged or corrupted over time. It's made from the remains of three warframes destroyed and fused together, held in place by the void. There was no intact version before this, no original self waiting to be restored, no moment you can point to and say, this is where it went wrong. Xaku begins already fragmented, and that makes it different from most stories we tell about identity. In games and in real life, most stories about identity start with loss. Someone was whole, and then something happened. An accident, a mistake, a turning point. Xaku doesn't get that comfort. There is no before. So the question isn't who were you before this? The question is, what does a self mean when there was never just one to begin with? We tend to think of identity as something solid. One voice, one core, one consistent sense of me that everything else is built around. Even when we admit we change, we usually believe there's something stable underneath it all. But Xaku challenges that idea. Its abilities are borrowed, its form is unstable, even its name feels incomplete, like it's missing something on purpose. And yet it functions, it acts, it moves forward, it exists. That raises an uncomfortable thought. What if identity doesn't need coherence to be real? What if a self isn't something you discover, but something you assemble, piece by piece, out of whatever's left? Xaku doesn't resolve its fragmentation. It doesn't slowly become whole over time. There's no arc where everything clicks into place. It operates while fragmented, and that feels familiar. The more I thought about it, the harder it was to ignore how often real identity works the same way. Most of us aren't consistent either. We're different people in different contexts, at work, alone, with friends, online. Sometimes those versions line up, sometimes they don't. And we spend a lot of energy trying to smooth those edges out, trying to figure out which version is the real one. We like to believe there's a single version underneath all of it, one true self that we just haven't fully accessed yet. But Xaku suggests a quieter possibility. What if there isn't? What if identity is just a working arrangement between parts that don't fully agree, but still manage to coexist? Zaku's power doesn't come from unity, it comes from coordination. Different pieces moving together, not because they've become one, but because they've learned how to function alongside each other. There's something strangely comforting about that idea. It suggests you don't need to find yourself before you're allowed to function. You don't need clarity before you're allowed to act. You don't need a single clean answer before you're allowed to exist in the world. Xaku doesn't wait to be complete. It just keeps going. And the void matters here. The void doesn't restore Xaku. It doesn't heal it. It doesn't resolve the fragmentation. It sustains it. It keeps incompatible pieces moving together, even when they don't naturally fit. That's unsettling, but it's also honest. Some things don't get resolved. They don't wrap up neatly. They don't turn into a better version of themselves. They just get carried. And learning how to carry them becomes the work. Xaku isn't a tragedy. It isn't trying to return to something it used to be, because there was never a single thing to return to. It shows what persistence looks like when unity was never an option in the first place. And maybe identity isn't about discovering a hidden core or uncovering the one version of yourself that explains everything. Maybe it's about learning how to operate without one, not becoming whole, just becoming functional. Xaku doesn't ask, who am I really? It asks something quieter and maybe more useful. What can continue, even like this? And maybe that question matters more than having an answer.